we'll be talking about how to build a CPG brand. So Kate LaBrosse has a long history working in the CPG space. She was a director of sales for CPG Brand, as well as the brand manager and director of sales for one of the largest natural brokers inside the United States. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Kate LaBrosse.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm really excited to be here with you today and to be talking about how to build a CPG brand. My history in CPG goes back about 12 years, and I got into natural CPG specifically because of my own mental health challenges, and I actually healed my bipolar by going a holistic route that brought me into the natural food space, and from there I fell in love with it and have had the opportunity to work really on every side of it, from a store-level buyer to a national buyer for all the co-ops across the country, to a VP of sales for a probiotic brand, and then as a director of sales for the largest broker in the country. In that work, I have been able to work with CPG brands, CPG founders, hundreds and hundreds of them, from fully startup brands to large legacy brands in the industry. And so I'm excited to kind of share with you today some of the best information that I have. I left the corporate world about 2.5 years ago to launch my own coaching and consulting business. And about 1.5 years into that, we launched a division of Kate LaBrosse Coaching and Consulting called Brand Builders. And Brand Builders is specifically for local brands to build brand awareness and to gain the industry knowledge and insight so that they can be successful national brands. We already know that Minnesota is a hub of agriculture in this country, and I believe that Minnesota can be the next hub for CPG, and we can build that here. And that is what I am dedicating my business to, is to helping more founders get off the ground and become bigger brands and position Minnesota as this next hub for natural CPG in the country. So this is a huge topic. There's a lot to talk about as you think about what it takes to build a brand. I'm gonna hone in on a couple specific areas today, and I'm gonna try to give you some broad strokes, broad ideas, as well as some really actionable steps that you can take. So let's jump in. What is the must-have key to success? Anyone? I think that most founders that I talk to think that it is the products that you sell. And it's not. The must-have key to success is you. It's you as the founder. It is your vision. It is your story. It is your passion. It is your specific gifts. It's your why. Why does this company, why do these products, why does building this brand matter to you? It is your urgency. How badly do you want it? What are you willing to do to make it happen? It's your clarity in what you're building. It's your values. It's your determination. It's your faith in yourself and your faith in your business, that you are building something that matters, that you're building something that can have an impact, and your resiliency. What are you going to do when the hardships come up, when it feels like you're failing, because those moments are going to happen. So it's you. And then from there, still not your products. Now it's digging further into your vision. So be clear about why you're doing this and what you want to accomplish. What is your vision for your brand, for you as the leader of your company, and for your team? Identify what success looks like for you. How will you know that you are successful? What metrics are you going to use to track your success? It could be because you are now making over $1 million per year in your business. Or it could be because you're selling at 2 times the velocity of your competitors. It could be because you have had an 8 or 9-figure exit. It could be just being able to support your family through the sales of your products. Identify what success looks like for you. How big do you want to be? How big do you want your brand to be? Do you want to be a national brand? Do you want to be a regional brand? Figure out what that looks like. Identify what that success is. Where do you want to be sold? Do you want to be in every single sales channel? Do you want to be from everywhere from DTC, direct to consumer, to online e-commerce, to on retail store shelves? Do you want to be a farmer's market brand or a festival-only brand? Think about where you want to be sold and what the right strategy is for your brand. How much money do you want to make? This is such an interesting question, and I find that most founders are unable to answer it. So think about truly not only how much you want your company to make, but how much do you want to make as the founder, and how do you want to be able to support your family or your team? And then you can reverse engineer what needs to happen in order to get to that number. And what kind of impact do you want to have? This to me is such an important question, and I think that this really is the future of food. It's no longer just products on a shelf. This is really about what impact you want to have, what impact you want your company to have for your family, in your community, in the world. When you get really clear on your vision, you can let that drive you forward to where you want to go. Now we're getting to the products. So what problem are you actually solving? As part of our brand builders community, when clients come in to work with us, one of the first things we have them do is a full market opportunity and business strategy analysis. I think a lot of founders start because they have some family recipe that has been passed on. They have this sort of passion for this homespun hot sauce or salsa or something, but they're not thinking about how that plays into the broader industry and the broader category. And so this is that work. So in this portion of our Brand Builders program, what we do is we ask these questions. There are a million Me Too brands, so we need to know how your product is different. What problem are you solving? How are you differentiated in the marketplace? It's okay to be another salsa brand or another hot sauce brand as long as you have something that does position you in the market in a different way and you're able to connect with buyers and consumers in this way. You need to identify who your ideal customer is. And when I say that, I'm not just talking a demographic, I am talking a specific client avatar. So think about who is that ideal client that is going to become evangelical about your products and your brand, and really create this avatar. How old are they? How much money do they make? Where do they live? Do they have kids? What is their job? How much money do they make? What problems are they experiencing? Get really clear on who they are. And then as you do that, think about how they would describe your products. Think about how they would describe the problem that your products are solving. And then from your customer, go further into the landscape of the category. Is your category trending? What is the category opportunity? What specifics are going on in the category? Are there certifications that have become the norm? Are there product benefits and attributes that you know consumers and retailers are looking for? How are other brands and other products in your category performing? How many are there? How big is the category? How much space do retailers allocate for your category on shelf? You need to be doing market tours here, going into accounts and really looking at what's on shelf. So this is where you get really clear on where you fit and what problem you're solving and who you're selling to. Then, from there, we go to the actual strategy. So what's the plan to win? Notice that these things did not come first, and I think that where most business advisors tell you to start is with this stuff right here. This is not where you start. You need to be very clear on your why first, your vision, your goals, your mission, your impact. That's what comes first. Then understanding your products and the specific category that you play in. Now you can build a strategy around that. So this is when you get clear on your packaging, on your pricing, on your promotional strategy, on your messaging, on your supply chain, on your ingredient standards, your marketing plan, your distribution plan, your team build out. And there's a whole bunch of things to consider here as you think about building a CPG brand, but for the sake of this presentation, we're gonna really hone in on sort of the marketing and selling aspect of a CPG brand. Of course, there are a whole bunch of other things to focus on operationally, strategically. We're gonna hone in on the sales and marketing side of it. So, category management. This goes back to the whole market analysis that we talked about already. Almost no new brands think this way, But when you do, you position yourself as an expert and as a partner for a retail buyer. It absolutely sets you apart when you sit in front of a retail buyer and you're able to talk about the category and how your products fit into it. You're no longer just another brand trying to put products on their shelf. You're strategically helping them think about what the opportunity is. So in order to think like a retail buyer, here's some things that you have to incorporate. You want to become a category captain, be the leader of your category, understand exactly how your category performs, be willing to show up in a retail meeting and talk to a buyer about what brands they need to have on their shelves and what brands are not performing where you could take that space. A buyer is always thinking about what they need to take off their shelf in order to put you on their shelf. And so if you're able to help answer that question with more than just your personal opinion, but with some information that really backs it up, you make it an easier yes to get your products on shelf. We keep going back to this, and I'm going to keep coming back to this because it's such a huge point. You need to understand that you are not just building your own brand, you are a brand in a sea of products. So, in this phase, I want you to do a full competitive analysis. I want you to pick 5 to 10 brands that are your direct competition, and in that I want you to look at who are the top leading national brands. What brands are ubiquitous in the marketplace that you see everywhere from coast to coast and on retail shelves, whether it's a Target or whether it's a Mississippi Market. What are those brands? And then I also want you to pick who are sort of the new up-and-coming brands. And if you don't know who those are, go into a store and start interacting with store personnel and ask them what brands are new, what brands just got slotted, what brands they're excited about. And also pick some good regional brands that are also local here to Minnesota or local to the Midwest so that you can get a full picture of what's going on in the category. I want you to use a spreadsheet and actually track information here. So you're going to include everything from the size of the products to the SRP, to the ingredients, to the messaging that you see these brands use on their websites or on their packaging. And then you're going to put your information on here as well. What are you using? You want to look at these top brands and go into retail stores and take set pictures. Not just here in Minnesota. If you're traveling, make sure you're going into stores across the country and taking set pictures. Or if you have friends and family who live elsewhere, have them go into stores and take set pictures and put together a whole document that shows set pictures from across the country and break it out into specific retail channels. We think in the retail world, we think of channels as 3 or 4 or 5 kind of different buckets. So there's the natural channel. This is going to be your Whole Foods, your co-ops. We think of the sort of specialty channel. This is more of a Kowalski's. Our conventional channel is going to be more like a Lund's Byerly's. Our mass channel is going to be more like a Target. So break up your analysis into those buckets. See how stores are merchandising your category. How much space are they allocating? What are the merchandising norms? And see what kinds of marketing materials other brands are using. Again, either on their websites or on their packaging or in store. And through that, identify who these brands are marketing to. You should be able to get a flavor for who their ideal client avatar is, who their demographic is by how they're talking about their brand. And then determine where you fit in within all of that. Positioning your products for success. So we're clear on your why, we're clear on your vision, we're clear on your goals, we're clear on your category and your positioning within it. Then what comes after that? So there's the 5 Ps for retail dominance. We're going back to the basics here. This has been a principle in retail forever, and that's because it holds true today. So 60% of shopper decisions are actually happen in store aisles within 2.3 seconds. So that's how long you have to get a consumer to engage and pick up your product. And we're going to look at how to do that through all of these different mechanisms. We want to make sure that your products, once they're placed on shelf, that they're actually moving off shelf, that consumers are purchasing them. Otherwise, you haven't gotten a sale yet. You are just warehousing your products on a retail shelf. So first thing is make sure you're creating a winning product. We've talked about a lot of these already, but just to kind of point it back out again, we want to make sure you're clear on the problem that you're solving. We want to make clear that you are sure on how you are different from other brands and products in your category, that you understand the category norms. what the user feedback and experience is of your specific product. So you should have some of that direct feedback and engagement from people using your products, and do it more with just friends and family. So whether that's going to farmers markets or going to festivals or demoing at a retail store, make sure that you're getting folks who are not in your sphere of influence, other people getting their feedback. And then what are the attributes, benefits, and claims on your specific brand and products? Second P is packaging impact. So when we think about packaging, we want to stand out, but we also want to fit in. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by that. So launching a completely new product or a brand or extending a product line is a huge and daunting task with very little accessible knowledge available online, so there can be a lot of trial and error here. We know that packaging sells product, absolutely. It's the first thing that your customer sees in stores before they buy your product, but it's usually the last thing a founder thinks about as they are developing their brand. They quickly just want to get it to market as soon as possible. Packaging can be an expensive challenge for emerging brands, and so they're looking for the quickest, easiest, cheapest option to get their product into a package and onto a shelf. They can look at, what we think about here is everything from the structural soundness of packaging that functions correctly, to ensuring that your package can be manufactured and delivered safely, to developing a visually attractive package that hits your target audience while maintaining these category norms, and effectively and efficiently communicates the product positioning and attributes. There's a lot to think about. And on top of that, packaging attributes have emerged as their own trend, whether it's recyclable or plastic-free or sustainable. Retailers and consumers are looking for this as well, and this can be an incredibly challenging thing for emerging brands to hit, because typically sustainable packaging is a lot more expensive, and this is going to come to your bottom line. So if you're not able to go down this road right away, know that that's okay. But if it does, if going a sustainable packaging route fits the vision and mission of your brand, make sure that you're building in that scalability and that you're able to talk to retailers and consumers about where you want to go with your packaging, even if you can't do it today. And then we want to understand what the category norms are in the categories that you play in. So you see a few examples up here. We have space allocation first. This goes back to how much space retailers are dedicating to your specific category and how much space your products are going to take up on shelf. Understand what your planogram suggestions are for retail accounts, especially if you have multiple products, especially once we're getting to kind of the 6 to 12 product count. You need to know what a planogram really looks like. SKU differentiation. You can see an example up here from Cascadian Farms. On the left, we have their packaging from several years ago. These are two different flavors, but from far away, it's very hard to tell the difference between these two products. On the right, we have their updated packaging, where you can see much more clearly the differentiation between these two flavors. Think about those things as you are creating your packaging. And then the last thing, is it merchandisable? So there are category norms for specific categories around merchandising. So these are a couple examples here. This Liberté yogurt looks really beautiful. It's in this sort of rounded triangle-shaped carton. We know that most yogurt products are in just a round carton. These look great, but as they're merchandised, they get all messed up on shelf and they don't backfeed correctly. Or the canned goods category. Almost every retailer is going to merchandise these in a stacked format. So if you are putting your products in cans that aren't stackable, you're missing the mark here and missing valuable retail space. Just some of the things to think about. Pricing. Know your numbers. I can't tell you how many founders I start working with have no idea how much money they actually make on their products that they sell. They have no idea if their pricing is actually correct. They have no idea what their margins are. So this is, next to the market analysis, this is the second thing we do with my clients when they come into our Brand Builders program, is we run a full cost of goods and margin analysis. When we look at this, there are set factors that we take into consideration. So we look at the full cost of goods. That's not just the cost of the ingredients. This is the cost of your inner and outer packaging. This is the cost of whatever shipping fees are incurred to get the ingredients to you or your co-packer. We look at your manufacturing costs, the shipping costs out the door to get it to a retailer or a customer, your warehousing, the distributor pricing. You need to have separate distributor pricing than you do for your direct-to-consumer pricing, and that cuts into your margin. Your trade spend. Trade spend is how much money it costs to do to do business at retail. This is going to be your promotions, your slotting fees, other discounts that you're giving to that retailer, and then sales or broker fees. As you get to that point where you're ready to bring on a salesperson or hire a broker, that's also going to cut into your bottom line. So incorporating these metrics into your total cost of goods and margin calculation will give you a true profit number from each item that you're selling. You will know exactly how much money you make. From there, you can actually take it one step further and calculate your total weighted margins by how much of your products you're selling in each sales channel. You're going to make more money when you sell DTC typically than when you sell into retail. The trade-off is that you can typically hit a larger volume in retail that you can't hit DTC. But because of these different pricing models, what you want to take into consideration is what are the margins that you're making in each of these sales channels, and then how much of your total sales are coming from each of those channels. Then you can combine that and figure out what your total weighted margin is. And ideally, you want to have around a 40% total margin after all of that is taken into account. I will tell you that most brands, when they first come to me, they're at maybe about a 25% margin total without even taking some of these things into account. Promotions. Promotions are incredibly important. Promotions drive trial. Promotions drive brand awareness. They are a way to get a sales tag up at shelf, to get off-shelf placement, to get people to try your products. But there are ways to do this more efficiently and effectively. So, as you think about this, we're going back to category norms. What are the category norms around promotions for running promotions in your category? This includes 3 metrics. What is the depth? How deep are the promotions? Are your products typically promoted at a 15%, a 25%, a 30%? The frequency, how many times per year are your products promoted? Categories, in the snack category, for example, you need to run promotions 6, 7, sometimes 8 times a year. Other products, maybe only 2 or 3 times a year. So understand those norms. And then seasonality for your products. When do you need to be on promotion? When are people typically looking for your kinds of products? And then you want to create your master promo plan. So I know this is hard to see, but this at the bottom is an example of a promo plan. And what we recommend that you do is you put your items down the left-hand side, and that includes sort of all your item descriptions, UPCs, and then you plot out each of the 12 months of the year, and you decide when you're going to promote your products. And you can include in when you're going to run distributor promotions if you're in distribution, when you're going to run retailer promotions, and if you want to run separate DTC promotions, you can build all of that in here. There's a whole lesson that can be done just on different promo types and promo discounts, OIs, MCBs, scans, rebates. I'm not going to go into all those details today, but those are things that you will need to learn if you're going to run promotions effectively. And then once you have this calendar, you want to follow it with retailers. So as you're sitting down with a retailer presenting your brands, or if you're already in an account, this can be your yearly planning that you do with them. This can be part of your launch plan when you get new brands or new products into a retailer. And then there's also coupons here. And there are many different types of coupons, but coupons can be a great way to generate additional trial. Retailers always have their own coupon programs that you can tap into. You can always create your own manufacturer coupons. And these are a great way to kind of control the spend versus sometimes promotions you don't know exactly what that's going to work out to be. The promotions are really the foundation to build your entire yearly planning with a retail account. So when you have this work done up front ahead of time, it's going to streamline things throughout the process, and it's going to also allow you to create operational efficiencies and demand planned efficiencies so you know when you can expect higher volumes, higher velocities on your products. Okay, placement, another P. Lots of things to think about here. We've already talked about category, so what category do you fit into? What are the norms? Facings. How much space does each brand typically get? Typically, it's 1 facing per SKU. Some retailers will do multiple facing, but especially in smaller retailers, that tends to be very rare. So if you only have 1 product in 1 category, understand that that product can get a little bit lost. It's why I recommend that my clients have at least 2 to 3 products in 1 category so that they can build out some brand presence on the shelf. A cut-in. A cut-in is when a retailer typically will put you in outside of a category review. This only ever happens when they are willing to take something off shelf, so be aware of that. Displays, we're going to talk a little bit in a couple minutes about some specific displays you can do, but this means different things to different retailers. Some of them have their own display programs or off-shelf programs or end cap programs. Some of them will allow you to put displays in their stores, displays that you've created. These almost always need to come with a more significant discount. They're looking for a deeper discount on these displays. Packouts, this means the total number of SKUs you can fit on a shelf. And ideally, retailers are looking for whatever you have in a case can fit out on a shelf. That's called a pack out. And so I recommend that most brands go with a 6 to 8 count case size so that you can pack it out on a shelf. Pallet is its own kind of display. Most startup brands don't have pallets, but when you get to that point, there are different options for that. POG stands for planogram. If you don't know what that is, bigger retailers are always going to follow a planogram, and it is merchandised like uniformly from one store to the next. Backstock, most retail accounts don't actually carry backstock. I know I have brands who get worried about running promotions and retailers just buying a whole bunch of product on discount. That doesn't happen. They don't have anywhere to put it. So typically if they're buying product, it's to put it out on a shelf. The clip strips are a good way for smaller items to get dual placement. You can think of like a protein powder packet, a single serve protein powder packet being merchandised next to a milk alternative. And then reset is when an entire category reset happens. This is a process that usually takes several months for each category at the buyer level. They have set meeting times, they have set reset times, and specific expectations around this. So there's our 5 Ps. Now we're going to talk about how to actually approach retail like a pro. Where to sell. This is you identifying what channels you want to sell into. Is it online retailers, DTC, conventional, specialty, national club, mass? Where do you want to be? Figure out the best market for your brands, and I recommend that when you first start, you go after 1 or 2 channels at the most and get really proficient in them. Build your distribution out to at least 50% in that channel, and then you can work on the next channel. You want to build your retailer roadmap. So we have a list of accounts across the country, what distributors they pull from, if they're an independent, if they're a conventional, if they're a specialty. And when we work with clients, we plot out sort of the A, B, C, D priority rank for each of those accounts. And now we have a set game plan on what accounts to go after. You want to identify your plan of execution, and you want to utilize industry platforms to increase your exposure. So there are lots of different options here. RangeMe and ECRM are 2 large national platforms. These are great ways to build some visibility, to get access to retailers. We have distributor trade shows, expos, other retailer shows. And then locally, we have some great organizations here doing some really good things. Minnesota Department of Ag, Grow North, AURI are all good organizations to tap into. And as you think about how you're going to approach these accounts, you want to make sure that you're really buttoned up in that approach so that you show up like a pro. And in order to do that, I'm going to walk you through how to build your retail toolkit. So your retail toolkit first is to have your national promo plan, which we've already talked about, and then your retailer incentives. Your retailer incentives are going to be for independent accounts. Key accounts, large accounts like a Whole Foods don't require this. They're going to have their own policies, but independent accounts like the Wedge are going to have some expectations around retailer incentives. So this includes what sort of placement discount you're going to give them. Standard in the industry, depending on the categories, anywhere from 25% off a case to a free case. And then you're also going to have case stack deals. These are a way for you to get additional off-shelf placement when you can offer a deeper discount on a volume purchase. So you're going to identify your volume tiers and what discount you're going to offer there. Continuing with our retail toolkit, you're going to have a master wholesale order form. This is for accounts who are going to be ordering from you directly. This is not necessarily going to be for accounts once you move into distribution, but if you have anyone ordering from you directly, to have an order form. Your master spec sheet. This is something that you will create and continue to add to as you add products to your lineup. Some of the information that you're going to put on here is all of your product information, your pricing, your dimensions, your shelf life, your ingredients. Some retailers will need it or require it. A lot of them don't, but your distributors always will. And so it's helpful to have this as something that you can just pull out and don't have to worry about when that request comes through. Now we're talking about presenting to retailers. So what do you need? You need a really polished sell sheet. A sell sheet should be 1 or 2 pages at the very most. This is not your full presentation. This is a snapshot of information. You should have a few lifestyle images on here of your products. You should have individual product images with their UPCs. You can potentially include some information on you as the founder or sort of the mission and vision of the brand, some attributes. With the products, you want to make sure you have the UPC, the size, the list of ingredients. This gives that buyer everything they need to sort of check the boxes around what they're looking for. And then I recommend that you have a master presentation deck. So this is going to be your PowerPoint. This is going to be anywhere from about 8 pages to sort of 15 pages max. Your master can have more than that because as you start to present to different accounts, you'll start to amass other information that needs to go into this presentation. And so then when you go to meet with a specific account, you can go to that master that you already have built and now just pull out the slides that you need for that specific account. Ideally, you're going to have information here about us, about the brand, about you as the founder. And in this piece, I really want you as founders to let your energy come through. Let us get to know you. Let the buyer get to know you. This goes back to your vision, to your why. Let that be communicated here in this presentation. Product slides, this is the example that you see up here. This is going to be at least 1 slide per category. Category trends, consumer insights, a brand positioning or competitive chart to show, again, that retailer where you fit within the category, your wins, your availability, and then always include a launch plan. This is going to be what you're offering that retailer, how you're going to partner with them if they take your products in. Can you demo? What's your promo plan? Will you offer coupons? Do you want to tap into their programs? So look into all of that before you meet with that buyer. And then after you get the win, a lot of times this is really where the work starts, remembering that once you get that yes, at this point you're still only warehousing products on a retailer's shelves. It's not a sale until someone pulls it off. So these are steps that you can take to ensure that that happens. So you want to have this new placement success plan. You want to confirm your promotions if you're setting them up with the retailer. Ideally, you want to do this in writing via email so that you have that as backup, not just a verbal okay. You want to look at any on-shelf marketing that you can do in that particular retailer. Every retailer has their own structures and guidelines around this, so you'll need to work with them on that. You want to educate the staff where this is possible. We know through COVID this has definitely taken a hit, but there's still some opportunities to do that, and we have faith that this is going to come back at some point, and we're going to see employees in shelf engaging with consumers in a more meaningful way again. But educate the staff where you can, and when you educate the staff, they don't need that full presentation. They don't need all of that. They need 3 to 5 bullet points that clearly explain what your product is, how to speak to consumers about it, and why people should buy it. You want to get the word out, so utilize your social network, your email marketing, let people know that your products are now available in this retailer, let them know about promotions that you have running at that retailer. The retailers are looking now more than ever for what you are doing as a founder, as a brand, to generate sales for them, and how you're going to bring people into their stores. And then keep the buyer partnership going. This is the most valuable relationship you're going to have, and so make sure that you're continuing to add value to that relationship, not always just asking the buyer what they can do for you, but seeing how you can support them, how you can show up as a better partner, keep them aware of any changes you have with your brand, any new products you have coming out, any new team members that you have that are going to be interacting with them. Make that communication really clear. And then create an account tracker. This is going to be, we use a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. There are different ways to do this, but where you have a tab for every account that you have placement in, and this is going to note who the buyer is, what the payment terms are, what products you have placed, what promos or marketing support you've agreed to, any specific notes about that account. You're going to include all of that in that account tracker so that you can go back and do yearly planning. You're going to have that information. Also, so once you're ready to hand off sales from you as the founder to someone else on your team or a broker, you have this document now ready to go, and someone else can jump right in knowing exactly what's happening at each of the accounts. Some additional in-store merchandising tools. So there's some examples up here: shelf talkers, pamphlets and brochures, sample packs, Branded swag is great. If you do branded swag, make sure again that this really fits the vision and mission of your company. I can't tell you how many like hardcore natural products brands would come in with sort of the most synthetic t-shirt or hat or bag and it didn't fit. So if you're gonna do something, make sure that it really fits who you are as a brand. Posters, cubes, banners are great things to use when you get off-shelf placement and you wanna generate some additional dialogue or knowledge around your brand to a consumer. And then a dispenser if you happen to fit in the beverage category. Displays. So a couple different displays. There are counter displays typically and floor displays. As I said, you can create your own. Sometimes retailers will have their specific requirements around this. These are great for secondary placement. These are great for running promotions. It is always up to the store if they want to allow a display on their shelves. Some retailers have clean floor policies. You want to take your discount strategy into play here, and then know that typically displays are not always run through distributors. Smaller distributors are not typically going to run any displays through their warehousing, and bigger distributors like a UNFI or KeHE are going to have set programs, shipper programs around this. Sorry. Okay. And then demos. Again, we know demos are a little tough right now given COVID. Again, we have hopes that these are going to come back as well. Demos drive business, demos drive trial. There are two options here around demos, passive or active. Passive is where you just have a sample packet out. The retailer will put it out on your behalf with maybe some of your marketing materials. Active is where either you or someone from your company or a representative from that retailer are going to be actually talking about your products. It's a lot of information. So I wanted to arm you with some additional resources that you guys can use here. These are industry experts. These are newsletters, organizations, people that you guys can follow to get better information around what's happening in categories, what's happening at retailer level, what trends are happening. A lot of these will put out data. As a new brand, it's almost impossible to get your hands on data. You don't have the funds yet to actually purchase any kind of sales channel data, but a lot of these organizations will put out free data. And this can become an important piece as you're learning to talk about your brands and your category. So make sure that you're looking at some of these and really becoming that category captain, that industry expert. And then finally, I want to invite you guys to connect with us. So there's several different ways to do this. We have a YouTube channel that has other webinars and presentations. We have a presentation on e-commerce. We have a presentation on increasing your store level velocities and online velocities through both digital and in-store merchandising and marketing. We have a webinar on how do you interact with independent natural accounts across the US. You can also follow us on social. So we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, both under Kate LaBrosse accounts and under Brand Builders by KLC. You'll find a lot of additional content there. And then I also want to invite you to actually join our Brand Builders community. So enrollment is now open for our Brand Builders course, where all of these things that I talked about today, we walk you through that, we give you templates, and we welcome you into our weekly group Q&A and industry calls, where we connect you with retailers, distributors, investors, and other people from around the country. And we're offering a special discount to Twin Cities Startup Week participants. So we'd love to have you be a part of this community and to be a part of making Minnesota the next hub for natural and conventional CPG. Thank you very much, and I'd love to, I don't know where we're at with time, but I'd love to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Kate. So how long does your program run? What does your training for the people who are trying to get into the retail stores, what does that look like? Can you talk a little bit about that, please? Yeah, absolutely. So first thing I'll say is that retail is a long game. This is not something that happens overnight. It typically takes, anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 reach outs to a retail buyer to get their attention.
So know that it's a long game. Our specific program, we have the online course for all of that. You can work through that probably within a month or two at the most, depending on how quickly you want to move through it. But actually building retailer success is going to be, you can start to gain some real traction over about 6 months, and then over the next year, year and a half, as you continue to polish that and gain more wins, every win is going to lead you to the next one. Retailers are looking for where are you selling, how are you selling, are you seeing success elsewhere? And some retailers don't want to be the first to market, so you'll be able to use that success with other retailers as you grow. Anyone else? Yeah, keep going, I love it.
Just to follow up to that question again, so it's the online course, and then do you do personal consulting or like on a regular basis consulting? Is there anything else to that?
Yeah, so that's an option. I have some clients that go through the course or go through our Brand Builders program. We also have a retail incubation market inside Keg and Case. So I encourage all of you to come check it out, where we feature a lot of local brands. We're going to be starting a whole new quarter with a whole new group of brands on October 1st. So outside of the market or our online course, you can absolutely engage with us to do more one-on-one consulting and coaching with you to help you really build your brand. Yes.
I have a question from a virtual audience member. Nalini asks, how do we connect with specialty stores or retailers like wedge/co-ops?
Good question. So a lot of retailers, like the co-ops, you can just go in. You need to figure out sort of who your buyer is for your specific category. The easiest way to do that is honestly just to call the store. Whoever is answering their customer service can a lot of times give you that information. You ask them who buys products for the frozen category. They'll be able to tell you that. Once you have that information, then it's all about reaching out. I do not recommend stopping in with samples without any kind of an appointment and just saying, here you go, I'm here. Don't do that. You want to really kind of set that up ahead of time. So your initial email outreach should have more than, hey, I've got this really cool frozen brand that I want to present to you. It should have a lot of these things that we talked about. It should have your sell sheet attached. It should have your positioning, you really understanding your product benefits and attributes, make it really clear that you're ready to show up as a partner and that you want to talk with them about how to get on their shelves. You might have to send an email like that, like I said, 3, 4, 5, 6 times before you get an answer. And then once you do, sometimes it will lead to a meeting. Sometimes it will just be, yeah, this sounds great, I want to bring you in. Or that buyer might not answer you until they're actually ready to look at that specific category and do a reset on that. And then other accounts, you can use RangeMe as a good way to get access to some of these accounts. ECRM events are a good way to get access to some of these accounts. Pod Foods is a new sort of B2B distributor model. They have a lot of sort of specialty accounts that some of the bigger distributors don't have, so they would be a great resource as well. And they have a really easy way to start distributing with them where you are actually still shipping the product out, but you're able to use their network and their platform to reach more accounts.
Another question from the virtual world. Jordan asks, does Minnesota or Midwest do kelp/seaweed? So many fun things to create and consume while helping to reduce some carbon from the atmosphere.
I love this. I have not personally seen any Minnesota products come out with kelp or seaweed. I think you absolutely could do this. We have seen this as an emerging trend across the country, both in sort of functional food products as well as supplement and body care products. So there's opportunity here for sure. I just haven't seen it come out of Minnesota. Yeah.
I know there is a little bit more time, so I'll keep asking questions. Sorry.
I love it.
So after the wedge and the co-ops, what should be the next step? Because for smaller businesses, it seems like Target or Walmart or any of those other are huge.
Yes.
And it's hard to get in. So what should be the next step after the co-ops, the local co-ops?
I love this question. Thank you for asking this. I would say that most founders, when they come and start working with me, their sales strategy looks like farmers markets, then maybe the wedge, then maybe Lunds Byerly's, and then Target. That's not a sales strategy. Those are accounts that are located here, but that's not necessarily a sales strategy. And you're right that a lot of emerging brands are not appropriate for a Target or a Walmart yet. And I think that there is a misconception, sort of that if I get that one big account, then I win. Then I'm good. And that's just not true. A lot of times a big account like that can actually sink your business if you do it before you're ready. So I recommend a few different things. One is to really educate yourself on other regional accounts across the country. We in Minnesota don't actually have we have an opportunity to improve some of our retailer partnerships here and to get retailers to work a little bit more cohesively around emerging brands. But there are other accounts across the country that do this really well. So as an example, in Texas, there is Central Market. And then they have, H-E-B has their natural stores that are sort of a division of that. In California, there's accounts like New Seasons and New Leaf. In Colorado, there is accounts like Lucky's. So other retailers across the US, these regional accounts, anywhere from about 5 to maybe 50 doors, these are gonna be the kind of the best next evolution on how to build your brand. And what I recommend that you do is you really try to figure out what specific UNFI or KeHE distribution centers that these accounts pull from. And once you get that key account opened, as an example, once you get Central Market opened, they pull from KeHE. Now you can look at every other independent or smaller chain account that is also pulling from those DCs and go after that business. So you get to build territory by territory by territory.
How important is the role of the buyer in the decision within the retailer, and any tips on how we could engage with them and the time of that process?
Yeah, the buyer is everything. The buyer is everything. I have been a buyer and I have called on buyers from every channel across the country. Like all humans, they all, there's differences between all of them. Some of them really want to show up as a partner, and when you find a buyer like that, you mine that relationship like it's gold. You hold that really close and you continue to work that. You'll start to notice there are some buyers who are only ever looking at the numbers. They don't necessarily really care about the products that they're selling. They're doing a job. And so those relationships always look a little bit different. The way I think about relationships with buyers, though, is the way I think about all relationships, including the relationships that we have on our social media feeds. This is a two-way street. This is a relationship where you are looking to add value, not just by the sales that you can potentially give them by the products that you're selling, but how you show up as a partner and being willing to really support them. I think it's really important when you sit down to meet with a buyer that you start to get a flavor for how they interact with folks and what they're kind of looking for from their brands. Some buyers, when they really start to engage with you in a meeting and are asking questions, don't just like kind of bulldoze over them and pretend like I have to get through my presentation. If they're willing to engage with you and ask questions, be willing to let yourself go off script and really have that dialogue with them. And I would say a couple other kind of tips and tricks here is this is gonna go back to that category piece of it. The more that you can show that you're not all just about you and your brand and your products, but that you understand that that buyer has a lot of things they need to think about when they're figuring out what goes on a shelf and how things perform, they are held to the performance of their category. They are held to margin requirements, they are held to movement requirements. Those are things that they're thinking of, and a lot of retailers make their money off of the promotions and the programs that they run, not just the products that they're selling. So a lot of these are paid programs. So bigger brands with a bigger budget, are investing more in that retailer. You as an emerging brand typically can't compete with that. So that's where you want to show up and look for other ways that you can really partner with them. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Yeah.
Another question, Sai asks, are there any areas/product categories in the industry that you feel are underserved? Which ones do you see a need?
This is fascinating to me. there are always sort of new trends that are emerging. I think what we're seeing come forward as trends right now actually happen to be a lot more around brands that are mission-based, brands that have, and that mission can be social justice, that mission can be sustainability, that mission can be transparency, that mission can be health. So this is where we tend to see a lot of brands come in and take up share pretty quickly when that isn't just marketing fluff, but when that really is embedded in the culture and the mission of a company. And that's kind of a side note, like if it only is marketing fluff for you, don't do it. Don't build it in. Retailers and consumers will sniff that out. So that's one piece that I would look at. We are also seeing a lot of, and this is definitely in large part due to COVID, but we're seeing a massive surge in functional foods, functional beverages, and other supplements, those that really support the immune system, for sleep, for stress or mood. And we've seen a ton of innovation in food and beverage categories starting to incorporate functional ingredients or functional supplements in their products, whether that is mushrooms or herbal products. We're obviously seeing it with CBD. I don't recommend CBD as a trending category. If you're doing that, that's a whole other conversation for us to have. But we're seeing these functional ingredients show up in food and beverage products. Gut health is also huge, so we're seeing that really come up and people are really understanding that. And then things that support inflammation in the body, reducing inflammation in the body. There's been a lot of information coming out around how inflammation isn't just about your joints. It's about all health aspects, whether it's mental health or physical health. So we're seeing those things come up as some trends.
Another question. The question is, any small distributors you recommend locally?
Yeah, so there's 2 small distributors here that do a good job. We have CPW, Co-op Partners Warehouse. They're fabulous. They're really good partners. They serve, I think, 6 states across the upper Midwest here. And typically, you're only going to find natural, organic products in their distribution. They started out really as a produce distributor. They're not doing anything in kind of the supplements body care world yet. We also have Market Distributing. Market Distributing services more of the conventional accounts. They service the natural accounts here too, but they service more of the conventional accounts here, like Cub Foods and Coburn's and some others. So those are 2 local distributors. Good questions. Yeah.
Do you help small businesses scale as well, where they don't know that they need, at this point, they do need to spend that extra money on a warehouse? They just don't know it yet. But you kind of look at them from the outside and you say, no, you really actually need to do this right now, because otherwise you'll lose that time.
Yeah. Yep, so I do it more from a strategy perspective. I support in that way. I'm not necessarily the operational person to do that, but really looking at the overall business, where you're going, what you want, what your sales look like today, and understanding what steps you need to take to get to where you want to go from a strategy perspective. We take that all into account when I'm working with my clients. And then I have, because of the network that we've created at my company, we are connected with people that can actually then execute and help with the operations side of that.
One more question.
Okay.
Sai asks, one last question. If time admits, have you seen companies based here serving international markets successfully? Any tips?
Yeah, good question. There are some companies here that are servicing internationally. I think that international business, the opportunity there has really exploded, and there are organizations that are putting resources behind this. As an example, ECRM now has their global marketplace where they have retailers and distributors from all over the world coming into that. They're targeting some specific countries or areas to do this, but we are seeing international play as an opportunity. And I would say that if you think that your products really lend themselves to international sales, international distribution, it's not a sales channel that I would dismiss or ignore. It's one that you can make one of your primary sales channels pretty quickly if you feel like that's the right fit for you.
And another question virtually, Jordan asks, how is Amazon a part of your strategy?
Good. So Amazon, I believe that you need to have a presence on Amazon, whether you are making that a primary sales channel or not. So over 60% of people are looking at customer reviews on Amazon more than Google. They go to Amazon first to actually look at reviews and to see what your products look like, what other people are saying, and how you're describing your products. So you need to have a really well buttoned up Amazon page, whether you are making that a sales focus or not. I think for a lot of brands, to make Amazon one of their first primary sales channels can be a challenge. It's logistically can be tough to deal with. Financially, you can take a big hit. There's a huge upside if you make it work for you, and if you're really going to go after Amazon, I actually recommend that you hire an Amazon expert to help you build that out. But at the very least, have your profile and your product pages built out.
So especially with coming out of COVID, the labor market's changing a lot. What are you seeing successful CPG brands do to win with people as they scale?
I'm sorry, what was the last part of that question?
What are you seeing successful scaling CPG brands do to win with people as they scale? Like the bigger you get, you need to bring on people, employees, and that's a really interesting thing right now. So what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think hiring right now is absolutely an interesting thing. In the CPG world, what's sort of fascinating is because of some of the big shifts that has happened in the retail landscape and in the broker landscape, there are a lot of people looking for jobs. So there are some really seasoned people that you can typically get for maybe a little bit less than what they would normally go for. And when you think about how to build your team, you really need to kind of go back to your strategy and what you're building and what your priorities are to understand like who to hire first. I think for a lot of brands, they tend to hire operationally first. So how do they get shipping, picking, packing, manufacturing really buttoned up so that they're no longer doing it, so that they're not working in a commercial kitchen, creating their own products, or that they have the right co-packer and right people managing that. So that tends to be sort of the first hires that I see people do. And then I think from there, it makes sense to have someone who can do outreach for you. And that person should have some admin experience, really be buttoned up so that they can handle all the back-end paperwork, all the distributor paperwork, the retailer paperwork, the promotions, the new item paperwork. All of that can eat up so much time, and I want to see founders get out of that space as quickly as possible. So to find someone who can do all of that admin back-end work and also just like hit the phones and emails and start calling your priority accounts across the country. Are you good, Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Things answered.
Okay, good.
Awesome. All right, let's give it up for Kate, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Kate, I love what you're doing. I think that, helping a lot of Minnesota-grown CPG brands is super helpful, and a lot of the tangible advice that you gave is definitely something that other entrepreneurs and other founders can definitely use.